Greetings, everyone. My name is Kazimbe Bana, and this is the Black ManFullness Podcast. This is episode number 5. Welcome back, or should I say it's good to be back. I've been gone for a minute. It is February 15th, 2023. Valentine's Day was yesterday. I hope that everyone who celebrates that had a wonderful time and that you got what you wanted out of that. Sometimes that can be a crapshoot, and folks find themselves hustling at the last minute. It is what it is. So I'm going to talk a little bit about your purpose, your purpose as a man, your purpose. I recently had a discussion with a young brother, and he was talking about asking for advice in terms of women and what he should do with them, and he's got this girl and that girl, and actually it was really one young lady that he was asking questions about, and this and that, trying to get his next move. And it didn't sound like it was anything that was substantial. So my advice to him was to get himself together, because he had also told me some things where he had been fired from a job. Uh, he was just getting in. He had lost his car for some reason. Um, and I said, man, look, before you talk about that, before you talk about the external, get back into the internal, get back into you and what you're doing as a man and how you're representing yourself and how you're living your life. That should be the focus. I said everything else will come after that. So I wanted to make a podcast on that. I think that it's time to address this, and I'm going to in doing this, I'm going to talk about some principles and things that I've spoken about before, but I absolutely think that they are worth repeating. And why do I think they're worth repeating? Well, in brief, I think that masculinity is kind of being lost on our generation now. Um, or should I say, at the least, it's changing. But I also want to say that it's kind of being lost as well. And there are various reasons for that I may get into in another episode. But one thing that I heard recently was very interesting is that you're talking about testosterone levels. So they were saying that men back in, I believe it was the 1800s, if I'm not mistaken. I might need to check that. It may have gone back farther, but let's say men back in the 1800s, that apparently their testosterone levels were measured to be about 1800 to 2200. And today, men's testosterone levels are measured to be between 2 to 3, maybe 500 tops. I've definitely heard that men's testosterone levels across the board are plummeting. No doubt about it. And again, there are many factors in regarding that. The food, the processed food, the types of food that people are eating, the push towards vegetarianism, which I think is a good one to a degree. Um, the fact that our activities, obviously have a far more sedentary lifestyle than we did back in the 1800s and beyond, and just the mindset. If you know that you have to go out and hunt for your food, that adrenaline and that push and that drive to hunt and gather food to feed yourself and your family is obviously in and of itself going to raise testosterone levels, because that's part of what testosterone does. It makes you assertive. It makes you exacting. It makes you push it. It increases your drive. It actually makes you confront fears, etc. Adrenaline. So that hunter part of us is all but gone. Still alive in certain respects, but not to the degree where you can go out and try to hunt for food, and at the same time as you are being the predator, you are also the prey by larger and more dangerous animals. So, That's something that we no longer have to deal with for the most part. Obviously, in pockets. I'm always talking in generalities. Just want to let you know I'm always talking in generalities if you haven't figured that out yet. There are obviously pockets of people in America who still do that. They hunt, they're on farms, things like that, which I have a lot of respect for. I have a lot of respect for that. So anyway, so I wanted to get back to that. That is I believe informing that and many other reasons why our testosterone levels are lower. So in that, I believe that we are also losing our sense of purpose as men. We are forgetting about that. I think a lot of times we are busy, even as we are older adults, in chasing women and not looking at our purpose. So let's go ahead and let's talk about this purpose. First of all, why is it important? Why is it important to have a purpose? Why is it important to have a mission? You know, um, and to answer that, I say let's look at kind of what it means to be a man, what it means to be masculine. And what it means to be masculine is to provide order, to provide vision, to problem solve, to provide procreation, um, and to provide protection. So if you're talking about provision, and part of that being order and structure, if you're talking about protection, that is going to a large degree be birthed out of your mission and what you do. So a couple things I want to explore today under the umbrella of your mission and what you do are as follows. Number one, who are you? Who are you? Um, so here's what I mean by this. Let's say you're a construction worker. So what you do is construction work. But who you are can be completely different. I.e., let's say people always come to you. You're always the person that people come to for advice, wisdom, direction, to solve a problem. You end up kind of being the sage, the counsel of folk, not only on your job, but in the community, in your family. People come to you for that. So then who you are could very well be the priest, the sage, the elder counsel, the problem solver, the wise one, etc. All right? So, who you are. Number two, what do you offer to the community? Three, what do you do? And four, what principles do you stand for? All right. Some of these are going to overlap. So let's get into who are you? It might take us a minute. It might take us a minute. I believe there's a shift in kind of figuring out what we can do to sustain ourselves and our family in this day and age. There's a big movement of people moving back home with their parents or moving in with other family members because, simply put, it is becoming increasingly expensive to live on your own nationwide. But I think that if you look at your talents and skills, and let's go back to, let me bring in the concepts of some indigenous African communities and spiritual systems. So even before you're born in some of these communities, let's say it be Ifa, Yoruba, let's go for there. Readings are done with the priest to determine the energies that the child is going to come in with. Are they Shango? Are they going to be Oshun? What are they coming in with? What skills are they coming in with? So then in that way, the community is prepared to receive that child, and the place is held and created for that child in the community. Now, how the Shango energy expresses itself, or how the Oshun energy expresses itself, or how the Obatala energy expresses itself, is probably still to be determined through the child's character, mannerisms, characteristics, etc. But they're still going to know some of that. The priest's job is to identify some of that, or most of that. Also, what helps with that are astrological charts. When that baby is born, a competent and skilled astrologer is going to be able to see, okay, this soul has been called to do this in this lifetime. And I strongly encourage people to get a competent astrologer to look at your birth chart to figure out why you're here. Very, very important. And it's super important with men. Why? Because again, we generally are considered the leaders of society in terms of the builders, the visionaries, the pioneers, providing order and providing structure. Talking in generalizations here. Okay? So it's really, really very important. So when you begin to discover who you are, as I was just saying, you may be an attorney, but you may find that you are praying for your clients. You may find that you, in addition to your legal counsel, you are developing a lot of compassion for them. And again, prayer, meditation. So you may find that, yes, you're an attorney, and that's what you do, but who you are is a priest or the holder of the spiritual health of your family. And I chose the example of an attorney and someone who is spiritual to show how they can be at the opposite ends of a continuum. And those two things can still exist within one person. You can be a janitor, a provider of janitorial services, but you are actually also, that's what you do, but who you are is a guardian. Now, I didn't say you were a guard or anything like that. You're cleaning up, making sure that spills and biohazards are cleaned up. You're checking air vents. You're doing that sort of thing. You're sweeping floors. You're buffing floors. You're cleaning up bathrooms. But also all the while you're securing the area. So perhaps when you go home and in your neighborhood, you're always aware of the potential risks and dangers of break-ins. You're protecting children. You're protecting, obviously, your own family, making sure that your own house is secure. So really in your heart, your spirit, you are a protector. You are a guardian. What happens when we look at ourselves in this fashion? A couple things happen. Number one, as I said in the beginning, when I mentioned certain communities, indigenous African communities that talk about Ifa and spiritual systems, Ifa. Um, and I want to be clear, Africa is not a monolith. It's it can be very diverse. So I'm talking about, this happens in some indigenous traditional African systems and spiritual religions, right? Uh, when it is determined who you are at birth or before birth, and a place is prepared for you, you immediately become part of the community. There is no, you're on an island by yourself. No one knows you, no one cares. No. You are immediately considered a part of the community, as a part of the family, even if it is an extended one, and you have a place. I don't think it can be overestimated the positive effects of knowing that you're a part of something on your psyche, of knowing that as soon as you're born, you belong. You belong to the community, you belong to your family, you know why you're there, or at least in part, and the rest of your life can be used to discover on a deeper level who you are and what you provide. But the positive effects of that are incredible. And that goes into the second reason of why it's important to understand who you are early on, either through astrology or through priest readings, is that it can have such a positive effect on your psyche, on your conscience, on your self-esteem. You know who you are coming in. You're not lost. It's not to say that you still won't be discovering things about yourself. Life is a journey of discoveries that never ends. Thank God. Because that's exciting. But you will know that you belong. There is a place for you. You have purpose. And those things that have purpose are valued. You have value. If you have a place in the community and you serve a purpose, you have value. If you are living out your purpose and people are coming to you for a certain thing or things, you have value. You matter. I can't overestimate the importance of this and how it plays on our psyche and our self-esteem. Very, very, very important. And I think it's no mistake that older cultures around the world still have this, whether it's through rites of passage or through some sort of spiritual system, as I mentioned earlier. There's something that some mechanism that is used to announce to that person and the community of who this person is and why they're here. Tremendously, tremendously important, crucial, critical to the health of that individual, to the mental health of that individual, to the health and welfare of the community, because you're meeting a need and you're serving others. And so there's a third point there, is that when you come in and you're thinking about your purpose, who you are, what you do, what you provide, then you are automatically thinking beyond yourself. And as men, the masculine, that's what we also do. There's an old adage that says that gifts and talents that you receive are really not for you. They are for the people that you serve. So the skills and the gifts and the talents that you come in with, and sure, they feel great, When you're in it and you're doing you, you feel wonderful, but they're really to serve others. They're to serve others. They are for the betterment of others. So that means that automatically, when you come in with your purpose, your mission, you are serving. You are serving. You are helping to uplift and support the community of which you are a part. And that means that you are going to be more loved and cared for because everyone knows why you're there. All right. So I talked about who you are, and don't mistake who you are with what you do. Again, the example of the lawyer who's really the priest. Does it mean that person should stop lawyering, being an attorney? Not at all. If they feel that they're being called to the priesthood, okay, great. But it's not necessary unless they feel it's necessary. In other words, you're not saying, "Oh my goodness, you know what? I'm praying for these people. I'm actually doing these rituals and things with friends and other elders, and yeah, I should stop. I should stop this altogether." Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Perhaps you're needed there. Perhaps the skills that you bring as the priest of the community and the family is showing up differently through you, and that who you are as a spiritual individual is needed in a mundane arena. It's needed in the arena of the legal system. Your spiritual awareness and sensitivities are needed in that space. So thereby you provide something very unique, a very unique combination, so that when people come to you, they're getting the work of an attorney, but then you're also providing the awareness, whether they know it or not, of a priest or someone who holds the spiritual wealth of the family and the community and the spiritual health of the family and the community. That's very important. So moving on, spoke about this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Again, in terms of what you offer, also under your mission, spoke about the janitor offering protection, guardianship, the person that is aware of what's going on in the community, the dangers in the community, new people that show up. That person's probably going to know, okay, I'm going to find out a little bit about these people and their background and see and just check out where they're staying. And is there conflict where they are? Am I seeing some unsavory characters come in where they live? There's going to be a person that's going to do that because they're the protectors. So that's what you offer. So the attorney who is a spiritualist offers wise elder counsel and also can offer information that can speak to the spiritual health of the individual or individuals. That's what you do. The janitor who is checking on folk, who is securing doors and locks, who is checking out the character of folk that come in and out of either a building or a community, is protecting and provides security and protection for the community. That's what he does. The other part of a mission is, what principles do you stand for? What principles do you stand for? Again, there's overlap here from what I just said. But your principles, are you a principled man? Are you a principled man? So, when you're talking about masculinity, divine masculinity, there are many principles that come up, and I'm just going to talk about a few here. Or I'm just going to actually just name a few. I'm not going to get into them here. I've got into them in other podcasts, and I'll do that again, other episodes. So, one, of course, is your ability to protect, your ability to provide provision, your ability to problem solve. Your responsibility, your ability to be responsible for yourself and others, your ability to be accountable for what you do and what you don't do, and for the mistakes that you make. Honesty, integrity, discipline, perseverance. So when we have principles ourselves as men, it elevates us, and higher principles, it elevates us above the average man, because the principles are not average. The principles are high. Let's say you have a principle of timeliness, being punctual, always on time. Let's say you have a principle of order. So people know that when you show up, by the time you leave, things will be better off and more orderly than when you came. Why? Because you bring order. You bring structure. Perhaps for some it's wisdom. People know that when they come to you, the principle of wisdom is pretty much what they're going to get. Perhaps with MLK it was justice. Perhaps it's justice. So people know that when you show up, you're going to make sure there's equity, fairness, justice for all. And that's what informs your mission. And so do you see how when you think in these terms of principles, how it elevates your life immediately? Higher lofty principles elevate your life immediately. And it also announces to people who you are, what you do, what you provide, and there's immediately a space for you. So I want to go back to, in closing out, the brief discussion I had with that young man that I mentioned in the beginning. I told him to, and he was young, he was early, mid-20s. So I said, you've got some time, but figure out what's important to you. Figure out the gifts and skills and the things that matter to you most that you come in with. And build off of that. Build off of that. What is your mission? What are you here for? You don't always have to get an astrological reading or a spiritual reading, but I would strongly encourage you to do so. I would strongly encourage you to do so. If you are in the Christian church, I would suggest, finding some sort of prophet in the church to have them speak over your life and see what they find. In other words, some sort of information from the spiritual realm regarding who you are and why you're here is really, really important. It helps you inform your mission. It helps you understand who you are, and what you're here to do. What are you here to do? And sometimes that mission is on a small scale. Sometimes it's just for the family. Sometimes it's for the community. Sometimes it's for the state, the region, the city, the nation, the world. You determine that. But I want to assert that no matter how quote unquote small it may be, it matters. And therefore, you matter. Find your mission and you will find yourself. Find your mission and you will find your skills and your gifts. And let that guide you through life. Everything else will fall into place after that. So this has been Black ManFullness Podcast, number 5. My name is Kazimbe Abena. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please drop me a line and I'll be happy to answer them. All right, take care. Peace, love, and liberation to you.